Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on your Friday morning. We're really excited to be wrapping up LatinSF Coalition Week with this demo day. As most of you may know, San Francisco is known for innovation, startups, investments, and Latin America is a big part of that. So we're excited to showcase that today. This event is run by LatinSF and LatinSF's Coalition. For those of you that don't know LatinSF, we are a public-private partnership that is run by the City of San Francisco and the nonprofit Global SF. We help entrepreneurs, investors, and companies soft land in San Francisco and scale. And we also help San Francisco-based companies as well as venture funds find investments in Latin America or open up offices in Latin America. We're really proud to be funded by the City of San Francisco. And we're also a licensed SBDC center, which means we are a small business development center that provides free counseling to anyone that wants to open up an office in all of Northern California. So if you are thinking about maybe scaling or wanting to have representation here in Northern California, you can also come to us. It's funded by the SBA, the Small Business Association. LatinSF over the past 3 to 4 years has brought many companies to San Francisco, but specific to startups, in the last 2 years, we've personally assisted more than 75 startups from Latin America that are either interested in doing business in San Francisco, soft landing in San Francisco, or trying to find investment. We're really proud of that. We're clearly passionate about the region. We look at the region as a whole, and it's because of that that we created a coalition. And I want to give a huge shout out to all the members of our coalition, which meet with us on a monthly basis, and we troubleshoot business barriers. One of those business barriers is precisely the fact that many investors look at one country with the large market, but they're even more excited when it's a huge market, which is the entire region. So we're looking at ways to get companies and investors to look at the region as a whole, because we know that if one country wins, we all win. Just a quick shout out to all of the members here who helped put the entire programming together of the past 3 days. Today is our closing day of the demo day. We've got Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, Peru, obviously San Francisco, Uruguay, but very, very happy that San Francisco has supported this initiative. Just a special thanks to Manish Goyal. Hopefully he's in the audience and he's listening today. All right, so to kick it off, I want to quickly ask our investors to join us and just say hello. I'm gonna explain the format of our event. And let's see if we can, all right, there you guys are, perfect. I just want to tell everyone in the audience how it's going to work today. So we've got our investors here. Each investor represents a specific fund. They are based here in the Bay Area or work more than half of their time in the Bay Area, and they're looking at Latin America. Some of the funds here are specific to Latin America, like in the case of Consuelo and SB Latam, but some funds, in the case of Alberto Yepes with Forge Point Capital, are really global funds. So we're going to get insights and perspectives on what these investors think of the startups that are pitching today. So just very quickly, we've got Ariel, we've got, you want to just wave as I say your name because we don't have time for full intros, but we've got Ariel, we've got Alejandro, Alberto, Adriana, and Consuelo. And to kick it off, we're going to start with Argentina. We're going to start with Core, and we're going to go in alphabetical order. Each startup is going to have 5 minutes. I'm going to be, very strict and use a stopwatch just to make sure we give equal time to all the startups. And once the startup has stopped pitching, we're going to ask the founder to just step aside, and then our investors are going to come back on screen, and we're just going to have a very open, candid conversation about the startup. All right. So quickly go grab your coffee. We're going to introduce now Santiago, or Santi, from Core. If I could have you come up. There you are, Santi. Nice to see you. And then I'll ask all of our investors to just turn off their cameras so we can give, the spotlight to our founder. Santi, how are you doing today?
Hi, Jolene. Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm very happy and excited to hear about your company and all others. I know that you've got a great project management solution, so I'm going to just let you take it away.
Great. Thank you for having me, and thanks all for participating, and also for the venture capital firms that are here for for their time as well. So I'm going to share a screen, and I'm going to start telling you about Core. So Core is the next generation solution for professional services firms. We are operating on a $50 trillion market when it comes to globally annual investments on companies like agencies, like software development shops, like consultants, all of these companies whose 80 or 90% of their costs are hours, that's their main asset. Most of these companies do not know where people are investing the time in real time. So that's why they cannot deliver projects profitably and on time. Most of them are investing their people's time on projects that are running unprofitable. That's why we created the next generation solution that intelligently suggests how you should manage your projects, your resources, and your finances. Today, 80% of our current customers have switched from horizontal tools, from project management tools, to our all-in-one AI-powered solution. So they have switched from companies like Asana or Trello or Basecamp or Jira or Microsoft Project to use an all-in-one solution that would include every module that a professional service firm needs, and at the same time, AI power to automate time tracking, to automate time estimation, tasks creation, operational and financial reports, and at the same time, business suggestions. When it comes to business suggestions, we are not a reactive platform where you should go to a dashboard and see the metrics to spend 5 hours analyzing and then take decisions. We are proactively providing you smart insights on what to do, what to change, with whom, why, when. Like, hey, this project is not going to be profitable. This project is 12% profitable while your expectation is 15. If you want to deliver profitably, you should change this and that. That's why we are the next generation solution for professional services firms. Today, I'm not sure if you guys are familiarized with all these logos. We are talking about the largest creative agencies in the world. So companies like Saatchi, Ogilvy, BBDO, DDB, FCB, Dentsu, Mullen Lowe, Wunderman Thompson, BML, Gray, Havas, McCann, and more, and Leo Burnett and more. They are part of WPP, Omnicom, IPG, Publicis Group, Havas, and Dentsu groups. These are the largest communications holding companies in the world, and they work with us and they love us in 18 different countries. And how did we get these logos? Mostly with a pretty repeatable and cost-efficient marketing and sales machine. Why? Because time to recover CAC, cost per acquisition, for us is 1 month. All of our customers pay annually upfront. Our burn rate today is 30K going to 35K. So very cost-efficient company with most of our team based in Latin America, but us here in San Francisco, we have today almost $1 million in ARR. We are today over $900,000 in ARR. And this means 3-year contracts that is over 2.5 million in total contract value. Our last 6 months churn with COVID has been 0%. Yes, 0% churn in the last 6 months on an industry, advertising, that has been kind of like destroyed. None of these customers got rid of our solution. Apart from that, but they did upsells, they did expansions through different countries, different regions, and we also took this opportunity of COVID to verticalize and grow within the software development shop industry, with the consultant firms industry. And when we say we build all this with a repeatable and cost-efficient marketing and sales machine, is because we have everything measured, and we are building we have a pretty nice process between marketing, pre-sales, sales, and post-sales, where we have everything scalable, right? The founding team, the people who are building this, we are Gabriel, Jose, and I. We're the co-founders, and we have been together with our previous company. I founded Balloon Group, one of Argentina's fastest growing e-commerce agencies, that we exited part of it some years ago, and we moved to the Valley to solve this industry's largest problem. At the same time, we, coming from Argentina to Silicon Valley, represented for us having Marcos Galperin, the founder and CEO of Mercado Libre, that is like the Amazon for Latin America, who's today kind of like a $50-60 billion market cap company in NASDAQ. And at the same time, with an angel round, we came here, we entered into 500 startups in Silicon Valley, only Hispanic company at that batch, with 1% acceptance rate out of 2,500 applicants. Just 25 companies got in, and we raised a seed round of $2.5 million today, where we have Kevin O'Connor as a lead with his fund Scope Venture. Kevin is today part of the fund, part of the board of the company, board of directors. Kevin is founder and CEO at DoubleClick, who was sold to Google for $3.1 billion, and also founder of 2 other companies, and also billionaire companies. Also, Doug Smith, founder at Anaplan, who IPO'd last year for $8 billion. Tom Chavez, founder at Crux, who was sold to Salesforce for over $1 billion. And more people like the current Chief Revenue Officer at Verizon Media, the VP of Sales at HubSpot, a lot of people that know the advertising industry, the professional services industry, and who know how to scale an enterprise SaaS solution are today part of our team.
Santi, I don't want to interrupt you, but you can barely hear the alarm. You have like 20 seconds left. Yeah,
so, today we are scaling with over a 10% month-over-month growth. And we are looking forward to raise our Series A in some months from now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Santi. Sorry to cut you off. I have to be fair with everybody.
It's perfect.
That was amazing. Are you currently in Argentina right now? Where are you based?
No, I'm here in my house in San Francisco.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Well, I'm going to ask you to kindly step back, and we're going to bring forth our investors again, and we're just going to talk about core. So if I can ask Ariel, Alberto, Adriana, Consuelo, and Alejandro. Pretty funny that we have all these names with A's, right? I was looking at that as we promoted the event. All right, what did you guys think?
First off, I want to congratulate Santi and his team, because as a former founder, it is extremely difficult to try and get anything started from scratch and working. So I don't know if Santi can hear us or not. I know that he's in the background, but if he does, then just want to congratulate you and your team. And it's very difficult to hear something for 5 minutes and try and gauge, what your blood, sweat, and tears have been in this long journey. So congrats with what you've been able to do. I don't know if we get to actually ask Santi or not particular questions. I wanted to know, out of curiosity, what do you believe is your biggest challenge as you move on with growing and scaling?
So today, our biggest challenge is we're moving from inbound to outbound in terms of like we need to scale on this global solution selling. Like kind of, I don't know if you guys are familiar like with those, like these Bibles, like predictable revenue or sales acceleration formula.
Right. HubSpots. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So growing. So like we have the largest creative agencies working with us. Today we want to win all of these offices. Like all these agencies have over 80 offices around the world. So each of those is a $5 million contract for us. So we are today instead of just like gaining different offices, just like growing within the account instead of like working with contacts, like inbound and just like growing some and gaining some offices. We are moving into, okay, DDB, perfect, in the whole world, right? And we are doing that. For example, today, DDB for us is in 9 countries, right? So we are moving pretty fast on this, like land and expand, but not within the same office, within the same company, right?
Yep. Okay. I have a bunch of questions, but I'm gonna make sure that I don't. I'll leave some space for others to jump in.
I think what we're really thinking about here is, and Santi, I know you'll be there, but I kindly want to ask you to step away so we can have a more just open conversation.
Okay.
I want to know what all of you felt about Core in comparison to some other project management solutions. There's Jira or Jira, people pronounce it differently. Do you see that this is competitive here in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I mean, I love what they're doing with Core. Some of the competitors I know in the space, the Asanas and the Trelos and the Mondays of the world, I don't think they have that kind of financial analysis capability. So I think that's interesting. I must admit, I wouldn't have guessed that there was the extent of the problem of these professional service firms under pricing and doing work at a loss was as big of a problem as Santi made it seem to be. But if so, I think, particularly there's a huge opportunity here. So yeah, really interesting. I think it's an amazing tool to price more effectively going forward, manage resources, etc. So pretty interesting.
I think it's great. My big question would be around these existing softwares. As Santi was saying, they have massive sales forces, massive offices, and most importantly, product managers and people who are very used to that workflow. And so it's a question where like the openness to displace, or how do you start from a more modular piece of the enterprise that you're targeting and growing, cross-selling and start to displace these products. I think that if he manages to do that, that would be amazing. But I would imagine that's somewhat challenging in massive companies. It's like not quite like trying to displace Excel, but trying to displace softwares that have become just part of a daily, like experiences for product managers. So I'd be curious to hear how those reactions are for those people, unless it's far superior in quality and it's such a no-brainer. But getting across that line and convincing a large group of people to agree with that, it's probably difficult in the bureaucracies of large enterprises.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Consuelo, you are unmuted. Do you want to chime in here?
Yes. It really caught my attention, the $50 trillion market in the first slide, because I think founders many times they want to get as big a market as possible, and for me actually it's kind of red, I mean, not like, kind of like a red flag, and wanting to dig deeper, like what is exactly your addressable market? What piece do you want to achieve? Where you want to get, you know, in 7 years, 7 years from now, where do you want to be? How are you segmenting the market? Who's your, you know, first customers, second customers, and have a very clear strategy, because you know, if it's like, if we're targeting the ocean, you know, it's yes, it is big, but exactly where are you swimming, and what's the destination among all that, you know? Yeah.
Right. I want to encourage you all to be as honest as possible. This is meant to be educational, and our listeners want to learn how you're thinking. So if there seems to be an exaggeration in market size, let's point that out. As you hear the pitches throughout the day, let's point that out too. Anything that you think can help the entrepreneur improve, this is really what it's about. Does anyone have any other comments, or should we go to our next startup?
I like the fact that they're measuring everything to get a sense. I like the team because they seem to have done it before. It's the go-to-market and focus, which really would be the main issue. So yeah.
Great. Well, I'll connect the startups to you guys if you have more questions later. Up next, I'd like to bring on Colombia. Colombia's been in the spotlight for some time. Let's welcome Dom here from Minka, a fintech solution. We're excited to have Adriana today because her fund is, you know, fintech focused, but all of our investors today, I'm sure, will have much to say. So I see you're sharing your screen already and you're ready to go. I love it. All right, Dom, take it away.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Dom, and I'm the co-founder of Minka. We are a financial services cloud that enables money to move in real time. You can categorize ourselves as deep fintech that is focusing on infrastructure, and there's very few companies that are working on that segment of the technology stack, and even less companies in that profile who actually have real paying clients in the financial industry. We are one of those companies, and we started off by wondering how to solve the problem of cash, because if you look at 10 transactions in LATAM, 9 out of those are actually made in cash. And what is interesting is that if you see how a transaction in cash is made, it's real time, low cost, and it's basically anonymous. And when you compare what actually happens to systems, if I want to send, for example, a picture of my daughter from Croatia to Colombia, I can do that in real time. It's zero cost, and all I need is a number. But if I try to send 5,000 pesos to my next door neighbor in Colombia, it's going to take around 3 days, and I'm going to end up owing money to the bank. So always there's something different in the offer that you can see between the messaging services and sending money. And we want to change that by making it simple to send transactions the way that you would send a WhatsApp or fintech message. So the way that we're changing that is that we're basically building a low-cost infrastructure for money. We're doing that currently in Colombia, more than 10 financial institutions in the country, and we are basically a fintech that's changing the way that people interact with money, starting from P2P payments. And by P2P payment, referring to the fact that now in Colombia you can send money in real time using only a phone number, and currently it's zero cost. The role of Minka in that process is being a technology provider. So we are everything that's moving currently in those type of transactions is powered by Minka, and we're making it possible for the banks to basically have a new rails and new infrastructure in the process. Currently, you can see us, we're mostly focused on enterprise. We are basically an enterprise SaaS, and our clients have a very simple model. They're basically paying per transaction. But the vision for Minka is to move from SaaS to be actually a full-time platform, and to be a self-service SaaS for long tail of companies who need similar type of service. The services that we're basically providing are very simple. When you look at where do we fit the whole component, we are basically the lower level infrastructure or rail that enables end-to-end communication between financial institutions, merchant users. And when you look at where most of the companies are building, because of the nature of the need in countries like in US and Europe, is that basically building of the existing rails. So Minka in a way is trying to be a completely new payments rail. And it's interesting for Latin America because I mentioned 9 out of 10 payments are actually not being run through any type of infrastructure. Now, just to jump a bit and just to mention the final, we're not the ones who are proving that that works. There's already a lot of big institutions who actually Minka is trying to build is actually viable. And when you see that signed up, we now have like 3 large clearing houses. It's kind of becoming clear that we're building a new kind of protocol that will become usually a still, if you call it an open banking, tropical open banking for the region. The mix of the people that work currently in the project are between hackers and entrepreneurs, combined with people from traditional finance. And there's basically a bit of a mix because part of the team is right now headquartered in Bo, part of the technical team is headquartered here in Zari. How you can see Minka is basically a SaaS that is infinitely scalable. Everything that we're building is basically country. So the big step for us right now is we've proven that technologies work. We have few large clients. Is to make this basically a regional play and allow anyone who is looking to clear transactions to use our platform and enable those type of services like I mentioned with P2P. We already have trust of some very interesting investors. And the thing that I want to invite you is to help us build a new Minka. And to explain what is Minka, it's an old catchy word that means collaborative work for the good of the community. So if you want to be new rails for the region, we will need help not only from the financial institutions, but everyone who is involved can build that type of ecosystem. Thank you very much.
I loved it. Thank you for staying in on time. All right, if you don't mind, stop the screen share. We can ask our investors to come back. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm obviously going to pick on you first, Adriana, since you're the fintech rock star on this panel. Tell us what you think.
So I know Dom already, and so I might be a little biased, and I'm very excited about what they're building. Generally, I think it makes absolute sense from a need perspective in the region, and it's clear that cash remains king. There's no question around that. The general pushback that I have or questions that I have around the business is what like the way to implement these real-time payments needs to be contracted with government and go like country by country, which makes it ultimately highly defensible. But also forces them to but also makes scale a little tougher from an RFP and winning perspective. And some countries like Mexico already implementing their own real-time payment system. So it's a matter of for this to make lots of money in its massive scale, right? And I think Minka is already crushing it with a bunch of upcoming contracts in Central America, some other in South America, live in Colombia, which I think is awesome. But I would like to see what's the path to like achieving critical mass of payment volume and the ability to have a reasonable number of countries signed up to be able to process transactions, partnering with gateways, in order for that to happen.
Yeah, Ariel, I know this is an area that you're also very familiar with. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I actually had similar thoughts as Adriana. I was thinking, you need a lot of buy-in in each respective country to make this work. Once you're present, it seems like a very defensible kind of monopolistic position, but I wanted to get a sense for what the strategy would be to expand beyond Colombia. Can you create the same level of partnerships, relationships, traction in other countries as you've been able to do in Colombia to grow? And what's the competitive environment? I know there's SPAY in Mexico, but I'm not as familiar with what exists in Brazil, Argentina, etc. So just would want to get a sense of that. But yeah, definitely interesting, ambitious. And the other thing I wanted to understand a little bit more was, are they targeting just, sounds like enterprise B2B, but is there an opportunity on the B2C side or even vice versa on consumer to business payments, and kind of what the thoughts are there?
Yeah. Alejandro, as a Colombian, do you have anything to add, especially since you're familiar with the region?
Yeah, I think what Adriana and Ariel mentioned, the need is definitely there. There is a pain point. I'm curious about whose pain point, and this goes towards what Ariel is mentioning about like is B2B, B2C play, whose pain point are you going after? And if it's the client, if it's these banks, do they have the same incentives or feel the same pain that otherwise you might assume that consumers face? And so anyways, it's definitely needed. It is a long road ahead, and there's a ton of obstacles, like most big ideas that you're going for. But those are things that are definitely on my mind as well.
I love that last point. What are the incentives of the larger institutions and who are you really serving, right? Consuelo, Alberto, anything else to add? And it's okay.
The biggest concern is the competition, like everybody said. There's a lot of noise, and there's other big players coming to the market, and focus again goes back to that same theme. Yeah, where's the big value in the pain you're going to address? Yeah, although they seem to have a good team that has been in doing startups, which always is something that we always look for. So yeah.
All right. Well, before we move on to our next startup, I just want to give a little bit of background for our audience of our investors here, especially because our next startup is in the cybersecurity space. Alberto Yepes is a managing partner and founder at ForgePoint Capital, which is specific to cybersecurity. Consuelo Valverde, who's here representing Mexico and is also the founder of SV Latam, she was one of the first, and might I say, women to start a fund here in the Bay Area with a focus in Latin America. And to me, and also looking at, health tech and life sciences, which is a vertical that is quite difficult. So not only do I want to say kudos to you, and I'm a big fan, but also just recognize that effort, because I think for a male to go out and reach LPs, it's difficult, especially in the sciences. But here you are, a female, and you're looking at a region that right now we're lucky is getting a lot of attention and press. But, a couple years ago, that wasn't the case. So for our audience members, I think it's important that you know that. Alejandro seems to come from a family of a lot of successful Y Combinator intelligent minds. Just, with your comments right now, I can see that you're spot on with the investment strategies and the thought process. I don't know a lot about Nilo, so if you could just tell us with, one sentence, just in the interest of time.
Sure. Nilo is early pre-seed fund investing in Latin American tech founders taking on big opportunities in Latin America. So it's very general in terms of what industries we go after. And we tend to partner up a lot with Y Combinator.
Okay. And Ariel, I've known you for a bit. I think you're amazing. I love the social impact side that you also have, aside from being a partner. If you want to just tell us quickly a little bit about Brainstorm.
Yeah, so Brainstorm Ventures is my partner and I's early stage and seed stage fund based in San Francisco. And we've been investing both in Silicon Valley and Mexico since the turn of the century. We were early investors and helped form the team and bring the technology over to form Kio Networks in Mexico, which was Mexico's first unicorn. Fortunately, we've had more since then. And yeah, we're generalists, but we love the region.
Yeah, I think Ariel is one of the most humble VCs I've met. You've also invested in OpenTable and a couple other big names, and you never throw yourself, enough clout, or echarte flores, as we say in the region. Thank you for that. I think it's also nice to engage with people that are more real in the investment space. And Adriana, we know that you are in a fintech fund. I know that you're young and up and coming. Very proud to see where you've come so far. Anything else you want to add about Clock Tower Ventures?
No, we're fintech only. We invest all over the US. Well, I will add, we're actually spending a lot more time in Latin America. So great. That's something, yeah. So we've done already 3 investments and are hoping to do a lot more.
Perfect. I love it. So now with that in mind, we're going to bring on our next founder, Cristian Torres, from a startup called Cryptos. They represent the country of Ecuador. Cryptos has had an amazing trajectory in a very short amount of time. They've got funding from Barclays Bank and Techstars. I won't give more away. I'll let him take it away. Thank you so much, Christian.
Thank you, Jolene. Okay, let's start. Small, medium, or big corporates, they invest in cybersecurity tools to protect their valuable information. But when they implement, they realize that they have tons of documents, millions of documents, and they don't know exactly which of those are confidential, critical for their company, who has access to them, and how people handle inside and outside. So before you protect information, you need to understand what you have inside. You need to classify your information from confidential to public to understand the sensitivity level of information. So what is Cryptos about? Before I introduce my company, I want to introduce myself. My name is Christian Torres. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cryptos. And Cryptos is a US company invested by Barclays Bank, Techstars, Security Cyber, among other amazing investors, which help businesses to locate their most sensitive information so they could prevent against data leakage. We developed a technology that uses artificial intelligence, 3 AI algorithms built by our own. The first one to classify information according to its sensitivity, the second to detect personal data, and the third one, credit cards and debit card numbers from the millions of documents that your company owns on computers, on servers, on the cloud also. Let me show you how it works. It's like an antivirus that you install on your computer or in the server or on the cloud, and it automatically, without human effort, classifies the millions of documents in an incredible period of time. We classified the sensitivity, confidential, restricted, internal use, and public. We also classified for the cloud. And then after we classified, we give access to a dashboard for the IT risk, cybersecurity, compliance department, so you could understand critical areas, critical users, distribution of information, the economical impact, and so on. After we classify data, we label, and we are compatible with any cybersecurity tool on the market, as you can see right here. Netscope, Forcepoint, Symantec, they protect information that Cryptos had already classified and labeled it. So this is how we prevent data leakage, accomplish regulatory compliance, and so on. We are really proud to work with different companies from different industries, most in the financial insurance sector, that we had amazing business cases. For example, the biggest insurance company of Mexico is one of our clients. We classified over 25 million documents in just 9 days. The same effort making manually or based on regular expressions, well, it could not be done. But with the technology of Cryptos, we accomplished this problem really well. Actually, we are 18 professionals with different skills. With my co-founder, Alfonso, this is our second cybersecurity company, and we have amazing people inside the Cryptos team that it's helping us to grow the company. Now we are in 5 countries in Latam, and also entering with the first POCs in the US market. Moving forward, we are really proud to work with amazing distributors, resellers, and partners such as Telefónica, Ingram Micro, a Fortune 500 company, also integrator partners such as Netscope, cybersecurity unicorn of cybersecurity, Deloitte, among other amazing companies. We had raised over $1.6 million so far in 2 rounds, a first round, a pre-seed round, and our latest pre-series A round that we just raised $1 million, and even we extend to 1.5 because we have some other investors evaluating the opportunity to invest in Cryptos. Why Cryptos is different and has been growing in the last 2.5 years since we just, we started the company, it's because manual data classification tools on the market or based on regular expressions are not working or solving the problem as Cryptos does. We analyze the content and context of information, and that's why we had been recognized with worldwide medias. So if you want to learn more about Cryptos, feel free to visit us at cryptos.io or contact me. And thank you very much for this opportunity, Jolene.
Thank you.
Wait, what was the team? Where's the bulk of the team? Do you have a very distributed team?
Yes, well, most of the team is in Ecuador because I'm from Ecuador, but we have people in Mexico, Argentina, and then in the US.
Any patents, or how defensible is your intellectual property?
No patents yet, register of the brand, copyrights, and we are starting with that. I think it's the moment.
Thank you.
All right, Christian, we're going to kindly ask you to step aside, and this way we can have a real conversation. I'm personally proud of this company because when I'm talking to different investors that are not looking at Latin America, the number one thing that I hear is Latin America has no deep tech, no real innovation. They're not in the cybersecurity space. And yes, we have room to grow, but here's an example, right? And from a country that maybe isn't on everyone's radar. So Alberto, I want you to be as crude as possible and as honest as possible, because this will help us understand what the region still needs to improve on, but also cryptos.
Look, they're doing a lot of things right. There's very little to criticize. The biggest issue is a big problem. All these people that are in a go-to-market and partnering want to include what they do as part of their overall solutions. So it may be a great acquisition target early. So it's not like, many people say, okay, he has a bunch of accelerators and incubators and so on. They're validating their stuff. I've seen this problem before. I invested in a similar company in Canada that eventually got private equity, grew and got acquired. But it's a problem that is known. But also there's a replacement cycle because everything is moving to the cloud. So I would say they have a good chance, and this is why the questions that I asked was when intellectual property, how defensible, and watch out with any breaching any existing patents. But the second thing is getting that momentum. I really like the fact that they have that ecosystem up front and trying to partner, or at least not partner, but integrate it with Netscope, with Symantec. Those are the people who had the legacy solutions, and they need cryptos as a result of that. I guess that the biggest advice is to really get some of those reference accounts at a scale. A demo goes really well. We have a small set of people, but when you're talking about banks that had 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 employees, this is even just from an internal perspective. The biggest issue for financial institutions is the scale. The scale, and also how much are they keeping private the data that they're aggregating, because imagine they're looking at your own emails, right? And so watch out for privacy and the scale will be the two issues. And advice to deal with that, get really deep with one or two design partners and really try to make the solution scale, and then rationalize the ecosystem that you have and pick the one or two that you're going to be really much aligned. But I would do it in the context of these will be my potential acquirers or people that will give me the credibility to raise capital. I can spend time with the entrepreneur to help them think through all those things. But I liked a lot about what they were doing and the way they understood the problem, the way they articulated, and the fact they're going to market. Big market opportunity. Everybody's looking for data loss prevention, and and there's no clear winner right now.
I like that. I'll hold, Christian, you heard, he said he'll spend some time with you. Take him up
I
on
will.
it.
Happy to give him advice. Yeah, no worries.
Consuelo, Ariel.
I have a question for Alberto. How crucial it is in this space for them to have patents or any intellectual property?
The only reason I asked the patents is a company invested in Canada got sued by somebody that said, hey, I claim my patent. So it's more like a preventive rather than, it's not crucial, but it's not necessarily, let me protect my own intellectual. It's always important, but my sense is, are you breaching somebody else's patent? And they would do it just for the sake of slow you down. It was a company in the UK that we were just getting a lot of momentum, and then somebody says, hey, you're breaching my intellectual property. And it's like, oh, people slow down. Eventually, you have to, then that becomes an issue. That was the only reason why I brought it up. Not because I consider at this stage be very critical, but every company should protect the intellectual property. He answered the right. Oh yeah, we're copywriting, we're doing all these things, but you can just file a patent and not pursue it. just to protect. It's first to file before in the patent world was a first to invent. Now it's first to file. Somebody can borrow their ideas and say, hey, it's my intellectual property. Then bigger problems happen later.
Ariel?
I don't have much experience in cyber, but I do love the fact that cryptos, just like Core, are companies that have global market opportunities. They're not just tropicalizations of U.S. business models. So that's exciting to see. And yeah, I mean, the first thing I thought of watching the presentation, being a layman when it comes to cybersecurity, is it seems like kind of automated AI-based classification would have a huge opportunity or use case in government, defense, etc. I don't know. That's the first thing that crossed my mind.
For sure. And I think that, with cybersecurity, and Alberto, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, I think, the solution your company acquires to protect is only as strong enough as your classification or where things live, because otherwise you're not using that software properly. Is that some level correct? All right. Anything else to chime in with cryptos? All right. I too am excited to see sort of new, fresh ideas and not LATAM copycats. So thank you, Cryptos. All right. We also have another company that has been in the spotlight a lot recently. I'd like to welcome Manolo from Mexico. I don't know if you've all been following the news, but Justo has been around for a while. They just closed a really considerable investment round. It's exciting to have you here. Thank you, Manolo. I think I'll just let you take it away.
Hi, how are you? Let me know if you can hear myself, or if you can hear me, sorry.
We can hear you. Sounds great.
Cool. So before I begin, I want to thank Global SF, the LatinSF coalition, and all the people who helped us be here today. It's truly humbling, not only to represent my country, Mexico, but also to be part of this lucky cohort of companies representing Latin America. Earlier today, I was reading that US-based Moderna, the vaccine company, was founded, and the CEO they're all immigrants. So that's another example of my point, no? Go science, go immigrants. So anyway, that's something I wanted to say before I kicked it off. My name is Manolo. I'm part of the Justo team. Justo's mission is to become the favorite supermarket in Latin America. And we're uniquely positioned to make this a reality in the coming years. Today, I will mainly focus on Mexico, although I believe that similar trends are happening in Latin America. No? As digitalization continues to shift retail, modern channel establishments are facing more competition. Basically, over the summer, in only 3 months, our TAM, which is defined as online groceries, expanded 4 times via COVID. For example, broker research now forecasts that the penetration rate of online groceries is around 5%, which implies a $3.5 billion opportunity. So in other words, online groceries are for grabs, and Justo, as I mentioned, is uniquely positioned to do this. No? We launched Justo late 2019. In Mexico, we say that es el indio, no la flecha. No, when things go your way, we are riding a tailwind, like many other tech companies. And yes, luck is always a factor in any endeavor. No, but we know that we're sitting in the shoulder of giants, and we're going to make the most out of this opportunity. Since we launched Justo, we've been creating or building moats, barriers of entry. We're building a new distribution channel in the region. We're much more than a pure online e-grocer. If we can deliver avocados to your door, we can pretty much deliver anything. So not only deliver, but also pico, bringing things to full circle, a true circular economy. Mexico City was our petri dish. We now have 4 microfilming centers in the city, and we just opened a new one about 100 miles north of Mexico City in a city called Querétaro. And the important thing is that we're doing this with the most experienced team in early stage, in any early stage startup in LATAM. And I know it sounds arrogant, which is not, or definitely not my style, but it's true. This is not our first rodeo. And you know, as we're obsessed with our people and with our customers. I think alongside the agility that this brings, you know, it's one of the biggest competitive advantages, no? The technology and the people. So basically, we've been building a tech stack, not only that on the front end through our websites and our apps, but we're also doing a lot of work on the back end through our fulfillment app called Atlas, no? Which is a proprietary app that helps us with all the picking and all the operational element of this very complex operation. So the icing on the cake, I think, and I mean, I want to go fast. I can answer any questions after that, but the icing on the cake, I think, is the pedigree of investors that are already in our cap table, as well as the potential investors that we're already in conversations with as we prepare for our Series A. So, I mean, we're basically ready for takeoff. The breadth of knowledge that our investors and advisors ranges from tech, you know, helping us attract the best talent and build a unique and personalized product, but also on the operational front, leveraging decades of knowledge in distribution and logistics. So another important trait, another trait of the ethos shared with our investors is our thirst for impact. Consuelo from SB Latam, who is part of the panel, will not let us lie on this one. I want to make sure that everyone listening understands what justo means in Spanish. For those of you who did not pay attention in Spanglish class, justo means fair in Spanish. And there is a reason, a rationale behind this too. As you know, LATAM is one of the youngest yet most unequal demographics on the planet. Helping correct these inequalities is ingrained in every justiciero's DNA. No? We're building a brand, a much needed fresh brand reflecting these values. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it is our turn as the new generation to show the world the pool of talent that exists in Latin America. It is our time to show the world that Mexican and Latin American companies are ready to change the world. So go Justo, go Mexico, and go Latam. Thank you everyone for letting me share Justo's story, and please stay safe. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
Wow, Manolo, I love your energy. I love the Go Latam. I love what Justo stands for. Thank you. Before we ask you to leave, any quick questions to the founder? All right, so then we'll just ask you to step aside, and we'll get our investors here to just start chiming in. Consuelo, you might have to, you know, you can definitely participate, but you might be a little biased here. So maybe we can start. Well, I don't know, who would like to start?
Well, yeah, so congratulations on what you've been able to do. I think, again, since you mentioned about what are things that people viewing this can learn, or other founders as well. Obviously, Manolo has already done well in terms of being able to get others to believe in the mission. I think that I was missing a number of things from the message here in terms of traction, in terms of a little more description on the technology itself, and what that differentiating, distinguishing factor is. It could be that I completely he mentioned it and it went over my head. But yeah, there are a number of things in which the way the story is told from beginning to end, it could definitely be polished and improved. But overall, I'm excited to actually be able to learn a little bit more about that. The opportunity comes.
Did you guys feel similarly? Were we missing data?
Well, one thing that would be interesting, because, you know, I've looked at companies in the US that are in the similar space, and, you know, one used to be called Move Butter. I think now it's called Move, and they were doing more of a Trader Joe's private label model. And then there's other companies like Farmstead that are more of a curator of brands. So I was trying to get a sense for whether Justo was a curator of brands, which I'm assuming it is, or is it doing a private label play similar to a virtual Trader Joe's or a Move in the US. So that was one thing I was trying to figure out. But I think for me, it's really exciting what he's doing and the technology they've built. And it's a margin game, I think, in the grocery space. So it's what can you do to have margins that are sustainable. And it sounds like some of the things he's able to do with technology are probably getting him there. Otherwise, he wouldn't have attracted some of that capital. But that's what I would be curious about.
Adding to that, I agree. It's all about margins. This is way outside my scope of what I invest in, but intuitively, this feels like another sort of tropicalization of what we're seeing here in the cloud kitchens, dark kitchens, and I actually think it's pretty interesting. I think the arbitrage in LATAM can be even higher if you source directly from farmers and cut lots of the costs the supermarkets have. So I can see how this could be super interesting and very viable. And also from a social impact perspective, I would imagine you're allowing people who normally wouldn't have access to other distribution chains to sell through your platform, which I imagine super cool.
Alberto, Consuelo.
I just like the passion and entrepreneur. Obviously, they have a great investor in foundation. And I was trying to figure out who was the partner, but they have a lot of experience in scaling businesses. So
I'm curious to know, Consuelo, what did you see in this company and obviously in the team? What really caught your attention?
Yes, so we have a particular way of how we make investment decisions. I'm not going to deep dive in that. It's decision analysis. It's very rigorous. So we look for probability weighted multiple on investments, which is really hard. And it passed the bar. But what caught the attention, of course, it's a huge opportunity. Particularly Mexico was lagging by the size of the economy in terms of e-commerce. And COVID has been, the great ride that many were hoping to get at some point, and that has been the case in a lot of countries in the region. But the team is amazing. You met right now Manolo, but if you meet also the CEO Ricardo Weber, he is even I think more passionate about the space and knowledgeable and about Justo and the brand, and it has the social component also angle. I was very impressed that for such I think they started now probably a year and a half ago, or I might be mistaken now with this COVID year that seems longer in a way. So, very early on when we were looking at it earlier at the beginning of this year, the brand recognition was very impressive also in Mexico, and people like the brand, what it meant, and I think it's a perfect name, but it's really their manifesto. They even have a manifesto, everything around Justo. The team is all in alignment about what they want to build, very good culture, and the opportunity is very adequate, I think, for Mexico as a start. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
All right, if no one else has anything to say, I think what we'll do now is invite our next guest from Peru. And congratulations to all our Peruvian listeners with your new president. I'm glad that has finally come in for you. And our Peruvian startup is Amigo Cloud. And Raji, thank you for joining us. Amigo Cloud, if I am correct, is actually one of the few LATAM startups to graduate out of StartX. So it's exciting to hear the Peruvian success case. Raji, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
So I'll let you introduce yourself and take it away.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen really quick. I have a few slides. And thank you for the comments. I mean, we had a really challenging last week, to say the least. Anyways, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, basically Amigo Cloud, what is it that we do, right? We make maps. So we look at geospatial data, we look at satellite data, we look at an organization's customer list, and we assign locations to it. So we work with location data, we visualize it, we put it in maps, we have data, we have tools to basically work with mapping data. To give you an idea, we basically started Amigo Cloud in San Francisco and in Peru at the same time. Most of the team, about 80% of it, is in Peru. We have about 20% of other folks are either in the US or Chile or Argentina, depending on where they actually want to work from. We were one of the few Peruvian startups that was accelerated at Stanford StartX. We were also accelerated by Code for America, and we're venture backed by the GovTech Fund, which was one of the first, it was the first fund in the world that concentrated in companies that provided services for government agencies. And what we do when people ask us, oh, like, are you competing with Google Maps? Are you competing with, whatever mapping thing comes to their mind? I have to usually explain to them one of the big problems that is associated with mapping data, which is just the collection, right? So the collection of data, like if you want to create visualizations, if you want to track the assets that you have out on the fields, requires a whole bunch of steps that most people don't know about, right? It requires an entire process and workflow to collect it, an entire process and workflow to visualize it, an entire process and workflow to just generate visualizations and maps, or perhaps analyze data out of it. And like any other GIS system, like any other mapping system, at the end of the day, it always has to integrate with something that is either pre-existing or some other system where the data needs to go at the end of the day. So we provide tools to do all these things. I'm going to give you a quick example of what it entails to do a data collection process. You usually have a whole bunch of people out on the fields. And this could be, for example, if you're a census, if you're a government and you're trying to do a census, or if you are a mining company and you're trying to go and do a collection of points where you found specific kinds of gold or whatever other minerals, or if you are a city that is going out and doing a cadastre, or if you are Google and are trying to collect data about some mosquito project that you have. So all these are examples of customers that we already have in Amigo Cloud that are already doing this. So what do they do? What do they all have in common? Well, they have a workforce that goes out on the field. They have a person that is in an office that basically has to coordinate with them the collection of the GPS points, the collection of the lines or polygons or satellite data that they're bringing with them. And then at the end of the day, generate maps and reports in real time, right? So for example, one of our customers, which is all the bomberos, all the firemen from all of Chile, they use this when there's a disaster and they're trying to figure out where is the location of the people that are hurt. And so there's a lot of coordination that's going on over there. Or, for example, another one of our customers, Anglo American, which is one of the biggest mining companies in the world. They use this when they go out up in the Andes and there's no connection and they're trying to get data points about where they found particular minerals, right? So the idea here is after they collect, they want to be able to generate maps, they want to be able to generate reports, they have some enterprise database, and people think, oh, these are all solved problems. I can buy some stuff from Oracle, I can buy some stuff from SQL Server, and that's not the case. It's actually, once you start looking at the problem, like solving enterprise mapping problems is always a big pain. It's a big pain point. It's not a solved problem. There's a whole bunch of moving parts. And what we do is we use cloud technologies and iPhones and Android devices to just make the the whole thing super easy, where any organization, it doesn't matter the size that they are, they can use our platform to collect the data and generate analytics out of it. The main enterprise product that we have is Amigo platform that basically does grabs all the data that you've collected and does big geospatial analysis on it, right? So for example, right now, sorry if I'm in a rush, but like the Peruvian government has called us with a new president because they want to do the first big geodata platform for the entire country, right? And this would enable them to analyze agricultural data for the entire country. And so when we talk about big geodata, we're talking about, well, what do you do with the satellite imagery of an entire country, right? How do you get value out of that? So those are the type of problems that we solved. We have interesting customers, Conida, I already mentioned Google, Anglo American, small government, local government, smaller cities, bigger entire country. So yeah, it's basically in different industries. It's GIS and mapping in general is multi-sectoral. So it's a very interesting problem. Engineers, we have engineers have come in from different companies. A lot of us have worked in Microsoft and done projects with Tesla and Google and blah, blah, blah. So very happy, Peruvians, cash flow positive, and we're Amigo Cloud. That's what we do. If you have a mapping problem, I would love to get an intro or talk to you. Thank you.
All right. That's amazing. Boom to all those investors who say that there's no innovation or original ideas in Latin America. Thank you so much, Raji. What a great way to learn about Peru and Amigo Cloud. I want to, any questions for Raji real quick before we, oh, and can you stop sharing your screen so that, there you go. Thank you. Just before we break into our session, anything quickly? Okay. All right, Raji, we'll catch you later, alligator.
I'm just going to say something very quickly that I might have someone, an introduction, a potential customer, someone who's looking.
I know that.
Yeah, sorry, so I'll follow up on that. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. I will write down, I will ask for the contact information.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Consuelo. I love it. Our region, helping out our region. All right, guys, what did you think? Lots of information. This is definitely out of my area of expertise. Dun, 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 dun.
I can start. I mean, okay. Maybe I didn't fully understand, but I mean, I've seen a lot of similar products that are for specific verticals. So to me, like, it seems tough to compete with those folks in those verticals, and which I'm assuming are the more attractive ones, but maybe there's an opportunity for more of a catch-all product for folks looking for more holistic solutions, such as a national government or for underserved industries. So, I could see the opportunity there, but I was also trying to get a sense for to what extent the company Amigo Cloud is productized versus it's kind of a service consulting.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I try to shorten it as much as possible, but yeah, basically we have two products, right? We have a SaaS product that does all the collection. That's the stuff that most of the smaller organizations, like a small city, we have a lot of small cities in the US. We have environmental consultants. Usually they just want to off the shelf. So we have a full SaaS where we basically give you the software to do the collection, the maps and whatnot, and we don't integrate with anything else, right? And then we have the other set of customers, usually in government, where it's difficult to sell a SaaS in government that doesn't integrate with something else. It usually needs integration. And so we sell them a subscription, a SaaS subscription to our platform, but we do additional professional services to integrate with whatever it is that we have. Pretty much every customer that we've had, like the state of Montana, for example, it's one of our customers. And they usually they have other workflows, that they already use, and they have an RGIS system and an Oracle system or something else. So we do a one-time fee of professional services stuff with them to do the integration, but that's not our main business. Our main business is the SaaS subscription. You may have, for example, for the Montana type of stuff, we have them on subscription that's around 40,000 a year recurring for the mapping platform. But the one-time integration that you might charge them might have even been the same amount, right? But it's only the first year, and they've been with us for like 6-7 years. Like government customers are very difficult to get at the beginning, but they don't churn. It's like the perfect model for a SaaS if you can, sustain or survive that initial sales cycle. It's a little bit more difficult, right? Whereas the smaller customers, they, environmental consultants and things like that, those are small sales cycles, like a month, and that's it.
Raji, we have from the audience.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
It happened.
So, the only question, one quick question on this is, I've seen a lot of these mapping with the new drones, and the State Department and Department of Defense are making huge investments on that. And I know you're doing mobile capture. I just out of consideration, is this something you're going to be doing that? But anyway, just more of an observation than anything else.
Yeah, so what happened with, you're talking a little bit about, like the drone deploys and like all these little drone startups that go and collect, they do photogrammetry in general. So what ends up happening is that a lot of the companies find out that at the end of the day, that what people, they're not necessarily, what they want is not necessarily the raw data in itself, because a lot of this data is becoming commodity. Like if you think about Planet, and if you think about like how many companies do drone collection, but what they want is the report that comes, the analytics that comes with it. And so for the smaller customers, we have a full-blown SaaS where they can do everything, right? And for the bigger customers, it's usually, and not even that big. I mean, we have a customer, for example, in Palo Alto. That's another, basically another startup that does, it's an ISP. And the types of problems that they come in at the beginning is, we're just trying to collect a whole bunch of data, but then they're trying to, mix that data with, do analysis of elevation, for example. And why do they check elevation? Because where you put the antennas, the elevation tells you like what's the range that you can do. Very classic GIS problem, already solved. And so, but we have it all in the SaaS model. So they come in, and instead of us having to do like, I don't know, some professional services like from scratch that would take you like 6 months, we can do our, or maybe as much, maybe 3 months. We can do our API and solve it for them in like 2 days. And so we do that integration, and then they're basically have a good log service.
Raji, I want to be fair with our next startup, but very quickly to answer this question from the audience, Angel Sad, who is also an investor and is part of Oak Investments, he's asking, you can see it also in your chat, but he's asking, can you map Z-axis, underground mines, etc., vertical altitude like high rises, and develop 3D mapping? And 3D mapping things like caves and buildings, etc.
We do 3D mapping above ground, not underground, and it's its own set of problems, and mostly not the visualization or even the analytics, but it's the collection. The collection underground is very tricky. So we do mostly analysis of 3D things overground. Like one of the problems that we're solving for one of the governments is, like if it rains, where is the water going to go in, and which houses is it going to destroy? Exactly the same problem as the ISP that I was talking about, just thinking about it differently.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Raji. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for proving people wrong that Peru does, in fact, have great talent and great ideas and great science. So without further ado, I'd like to transfer it over now to Nicolás. Nicolás is from Uruguay, and the stellar startup that we're going to be hearing about is Tuterapia.
Thank you, Jolene. You hear me right now?
I can hear you well, and I can also see your screen. Yes. Okay. So obviously Uruguay is last because of the alphabetical order, but definitely not least. So Nicolás, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. We are Tuterapia, an online therapy platform for anyone who wants to start feeling better. We saw a huge problem with mental health. We know for a fact that 506,000 people are looking for a therapist every month, and nobody is covering this demand. We also know that more than 70% of the people with mental health issues are not receiving treatment. And why? Because of the high cost for a face-to-face therapy, and also the stigma at the moment of seeking help. On the other hand, we got the therapists that are always looking for new clients. We actually receive CVs every week in our inbox email. For this, we develop a solution. Anyone could get in our platform and match with their ideal therapist. It's affordable, stigma-free, and anonymous. We are a marketplace, and our business model is based on commission. We take 20% commission on each session bought by clients. After 6 months of launching our platform, we delivered more than 1,000 sessions with only an investment of almost $3,000. We got 800 registers, 25K of GMV, 5K of revenue, a CAC of $15, and a lifetime value of $70. Now we are looking for $1.5 million to get to Mexico, Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay in a 2-year investment, a seed investment that we will use $1 million in marketing and the rest in structure of the platform, sellers, tech support, and else. We will reach out to 86,000 users in these 2 years, and our gross revenue will be more than $7 million. To continue with our planning, we will get to the USA, that we know there's a huge Hispanic population there, and there's no one covering this demand. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Nicolás Brubacher. I'm a therapist myself, CEO and co-founder of Tuterapia.
All right, I loved it. Short, concise, and sweet.
Thank you.
I agree with you. It's very hard to find a Spanish-speaking therapist here. I've been looking one for my mother, actually, who is sheltering in place with me. Crazy times. So any questions to Nicolás directly before we go to our private discussion?
No, I just encourage you to continue to drive. There's a huge post-COVID need for mental health. It's being studied at the World Economic Forum. I've been in a lot of big think tanks, and we see a wave of these coming. So I think you're in the right spot in the right time. I think the big question for you is scale and how you get to know each other. It's great that it's by referral and what you've done to date. So how can you help that, social maybe marketing and trying to get to be known? There's a huge need, and you're going to see it. You're already seeing it, but you're going to see probably exponential growth in this area.
Any other questions or comments for Nicolás before we go to our own session? Okay, Nicolás.
I have a question. I was trying to write down what you spoke about in terms of your CAC and the what did you say was the number that you were looking for in terms of being able to generate, like revenue? Did you mention something like that?
Yeah, we are looking for 1.5 million to get to 4 countries that we know that actually consume psychotherapy. That is Mexico, Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay.
And you said there's 560,000 individuals that fall under and those are within Latin America, I presume, or?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what is it that, again, I'm sorry if everyone saw this, I was just trying to put it all together here. What is it that the pricing is for the individuals?
It's $29 the session, and we get 20% of each session, of each transaction.
Okay. And then did you mention what that total overall would look like?
The total market,
yeah,
we got a serviceable client of 13 million people. If we acquire that 10%, it will be 1.3 million people for Tuterapia. Actually, in the US, Talkspace, I don't know if you know it, they got like more than 1 million users. BetterHelp also got more than 1 million users. Altogether, more than 2 million users, I think. In Latin America, it's a huge market, a huge possibility for us.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that.
All right. I think maybe Nicolas will ask you to step aside and then we can have a more candid conversation amongst ourselves. All right, what do you guys think? Definitely a space where you need to differentiate. There's a lot of competition out there.
Yeah, I think one thing with these types of plays that always worries me is well, I wanted to get a sense for whether, given the anonymity feature, are you seeing the same person during each session, or are you kind of rematched each time? And particularly if you're seeing the same person, there's always that risk of folks taking it off platform, right, to save those 20% once they find the therapist that they like. So the key is for the platform to offer enough value to both sides of the marketplace that there aren't incentives to leave, right? So I think that's always one question. Argentina has, I know this, they have the most psychologists per capita in the world, so good market to be in. And I think there's some tailwinds, as Alberto mentioned, good time for this type of offering, so could be interesting. In the U.S., there's also some folks like Ginger that sell through enterprise, so as a employee benefit. So that's another kind of interesting channel, which I don't think he's targeting for the time being, but it's another interesting angle to take.
I think it's super interesting. The one thing I would watch out, or I would dive deeper in, is the churn in these models tends to be pretty high, and there is a level of qualitative fit that you can control for more than just like a product market fit with an app that you can use stats to make sure people are engaged, because it's entirely like sentiment and people driven. And so finding a therapist is no small feat, and maybe that enhances churn when people actually find their person, but maybe some people will go through multiple sessions and like try to find someone that they feel comfortable with. Like how that plays out from an economic perspective would be interesting to discuss.
Really good points, Adriana. I agree. Consuelo, I know this isn't 100% your space, but you are in sort of science, health science, life sciences. What do you think?
Yes, well, mental health has been a big issue that I think came a lot to light for everyone this year. Otherwise, but it has always been an issue. And we have looked at the space. I was trying to remember the startup I saw was particularly from Argentina, Ariel, like you said. And that's when I learned that Argentina has the largest number of therapists, psychologists per capita. So I think it's definitely a good space. There's a need, there's a problem, and it's good to start a company with a big problem nowadays. But at the same time, you have to see how you're going to differentiate among the others. You're not normally, whenever an entrepreneur starts a company because you identify a problem, you're not the only one that sees it. So how are you going to be the one that conquers? And VCs, that's what they want to see. It's a very risky industry with so many unknowns. So we like to see who has, and it's all a lot about the team. The market is there, might be the same for several players, but the difference is the team. So what do you have that others don't? And scaling and executing very fast and very, very good. So that's I think the challenge. I like the fact about they're targeting the Hispanic market also in the US. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments? I definitely thought about the pricing, and while that price for Latin America may be very attractive, here in the States, it's like giving a session away. So once you're ready to come here, you definitely want to hire someone to give you a nice pricing analysis. And Nicolas,
there's an arbitrage opportunity there. I mean, if you have therapists that are, you know, from Mexico or from Argentina or Colombia, where have you, offering their services to the US, there's an interesting arbitrage play there, which could be pretty lucrative.
I completely agree.
Right. Well, I think that at this point we can open up questions in general to the audience. I know some audience members have already chimed in. We've got about 3 minutes left. So if there are no questions coming in, I think I'll start wrapping it up. Any last minute comments from anyone? How did you guys feel these startups represented Latin America, and how did they generally compare to what you're seeing here in Silicon Valley?
It definitely has, in the last number of years, you can clearly see the difference, not just in ventures that are rising up, but the experience of those founders and how they're actually capable of telling their stories as well in a way that captivates the attention of investors. Because investors in Silicon Valley are like no other investor. It's a completely different mentality. Investors as a founder that had originally bootstrapped my company and then been able to exit it, but been able to see it through my brothers when they went through fundraising for their companies. Huge difference between those that are in the Northeast and the type of questions and things that gets them boggled down versus someone in Silicon Valley, which seems to which has a very different way of looking at certain opportunities. So it's great to actually see Latin American founders having this bridge with Silicon Valley in particular, and being able to begin to communicate what it is that they do in that type of language, because that is a huge obstacle, just understanding what it is that most people look for.
Yeah, I'd love some other comments.
I agree. I also do think that LATAM is getting more tailwinds now than ever. And the more saturated and expensive the local US market becomes from a VC perspective, the more attractive LATAM becomes. And I think there's something positive about the tropicalization of models. It's not just copycatting. Like, I don't think that's entirely negative. I think it's really smart to leverage years of trial and error in the US and like just take the best version of the 5th iteration of the challenger banks and like go and do that rather than try to reinvent the wheel by yourself. And I think that can also provide familiarity to US investors in order to wrap their heads around what sort of model they're evaluating and how to get comfortable with the risk of the investment.
Consuelo, as trendsetter in this group, what do you think?
I think yes, you see a very good there's a lot of talent in the region. Probably the ecosystems are newer than in the US, but they're coming up, and we have big problems in Latin America, so lots of opportunity for venture. And even though we think that right now Latin America is we hear a lot about it in the news with venture in the region, it still only gets 1% of all venture dollars in global. So and it's in terms of the population is much of a larger piece. So there's a lot of still room for growth and for venture and for startups. I think it's just going to continue maturing, and it's not everything is about copycatting. And I think there's nothing wrong. You always have to adapt. It's also, we have invested in some startups that saw the opportunities from Asia, for example, that in many spaces, they are more advanced than in the US. There's also things that you could take from, or learn, a lot of learning. It's from Africa to Latin America. And I am seeing even in spaces, and this is super exciting for me, because what made me start the fund was that, the life sciences, especially biotech from Mexico, to start seeing entrepreneurs from the region that are founding companies in the food tech space, for example. Yesterday, I was just with 4 women scientists, entrepreneurs that are looking to start or are starting food tech startups, and all women scientists from all Latin America. So things are happening, and it's super exciting. Yeah.
I guess my comment in general is the following. There's a difference between building a regional business and a global business. And entrepreneurship happens in both. The likelihood that most of these startups, although there's a couple of exceptions, they're going to be regional businesses. And it's very important to get to investors that are interested in investing in the region. When you come to do a global business, you're coming to the global theater, you're being measured at a very different level. I've been involved with Endeavor, I've been involved with Startup Chile, with Startup Peru, with 500 startups. And the issues and a lot of the frustration is when people come to the Valley, or they come from the tour to the Valley, many investors say, well, you have a great start, but you're not solving a global problem. My job as a VC in Silicon Valley is to build global businesses. And I want to, wherever they are, it doesn't have to be in Latin America, it could be in Estonia, it could be in Spain, wherever it is. But we will bring you here, we'll help you scale, we'll get your development, your operations still creating economic growth in your respective area. But there's a big difference, and there's a lot of frustration, because look at how much money Chile put with Startup Chile. The initial project was $200 million. I was there in the very, very beginning, and they asked me to become an advisor. And it was clear that most of the projects coming out of it were regional plays. And then when they would come to the Valley, says nobody pays attention, they don't want to invest. Well, the mandates that some of us have are global. And therefore, we need to your point, I think I like what you've done, Jolene, is let's focus on the regional businesses to be paired with regional investors. And then, the exit, what a lot of entrepreneurs, and I didn't get it when I was an entrepreneur, is the exit in mind. I have the exit in mind. What is the likelihood that you as a regional business, you're going to get acquired or going to go public? There's no market to go public in Latin America. Therefore, you need to come to a global theater. And the likelihood that you're going to get to that scale is very remote. And then, we've been involved with certain Endeavor companies like Papaya. They got acquired by, I guess the guy said Comcast or whatever. They were doing more of their stuff. But it's always, the copycat is more, I want to expand to the region. I want to buy something that is established in the region so I can get the coverage already there in the customer base. So let's do a subtle difference in the way we need to educate the entrepreneurs. If you're going to do a global business different, you could be successful. A couple of companies that we've seen here could be very successful in that, but they need to get the right backing. But if not, if you're a regional business, make sure you know what it is, and let's bring people to help you do that. And as much as we're trying to help, the other thing we need to do is educate the region. And in countries like in Colombia, Peru, the economic groups are the ones that need to be providing more support. I would say venture capital in America has probably been stronger and has started even way before in the US, because the economic group, Grupo Slim, Grupo Romero, Grupo Interbank, all of them have a lot of startups, but they're closed groups. And they have the funding, but the only people that get to do to become executives are people from the family. So there's subtle differences, but I think we're breaking this up and making sure that we're going to be successful. But let's have clear in mind, it's all about segmenting your market. And in venture capital, you invest with the exit in mind. If you don't see the exit clear, and the exit is going to be acquired by somebody, copycats are all right. They are great because somebody will want to come and get into your market. So it's clarity of mind. And it's part of the education that we need to instill in the entrepreneurs. Not that we cannot be global players, but let's start with a global idea and a big plan to be able to do that. That's a bit of just the general experience of trying to work in Latin America and trying to support innovation in the region.
I love that, Alberto. Thank you. That's a lot of knowledge and wealth in a couple minutes. Ariel, you're unmuted. What do you want to share?
Oh, no, I mean, I agree with what's been said. I think when you start thinking about Latin America as one region, it becomes pretty attractive to those who look at it. I think just a few thoughts here. One benefit that sometimes Uruguay or an Argentina might have over a Mexico is that because those markets aren't that attractive in and of themselves, those entrepreneurs tend to be thinking globally from the beginning. Whereas, Mexico is a large, attractive market. So a lot of entrepreneurs in Mexico or in Brazil, even maybe in some cases in Colombia, tend to look more nationally. So that's kind of one thing to keep in mind. I think another thing that is kind of unique and Core had it, and some other teams probably have it too, is these hybrid teams where, I think with the time zone similarities between Silicon Valley, the US and Latin America, and I would say cultural similarities and the large Latino population in the US, you see these kind of interesting hybrid teams more and more developing. And I think now with COVID and working remotely, it's only going to accelerate, which I think is great for Latin America, right? These linkages with Silicon Valley, getting the attention of Silicon Valley investors, and just kind of cross-pollination is healthy. So, I think that's something that's harder to replicate with Asia, for example.
Yeah, we could clearly dive deep and talk about this for hours. I'm very passionate about the subject, and apparently our audience is too, because not a single person has dropped, even though we're 7 minutes over. So in being mindful of your time, I'm going to start wrapping it up. I want to say from myself, from LatinSF, from all our coalition members, and from the city of San Francisco, thank you so much for donating your time today, giving us feedback, helping our audience and stakeholders sort of learn more about how investment works and how Latin America compares to Silicon Valley. We couldn't thank you enough. This demo day wouldn't have been special if you weren't here. So thanks for donating your time this morning. And please remember that LatinSF.org is where you can go and get more information about upcoming events, about what we do for Latin America and what we do for San Francisco-based companies as well. And to all our startup founders that are still online, thank you so much for your time and for showcasing your technologies with us. And with that, I'll just say have a great weekend. Mwah. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Everyone.
Ciao. Cuídense mucho.
Igual. Bye.